alongside Deirdre from West Michigan Environmental Action Council. And we're both incredibly grateful to our partners at the Climate Action Campaign and to everyone in this coalition who helped make today possible. We've come here together today because of the work of the Environmental Protection Agency. It is more essential than ever. The EPA plays a vital role in protecting our health, our environment, and our future. And we are here today to make sure that the truth is heard loud and clear. We are honored to be joined by our powerful lineup of guest speakers, each bringing deep expertise and a lived experience to this conversation. State Representative Julie Brixey, a strong advocate in public health and environmental protections here in the Michigan Legislature. Kathleen Sloninger, the Executive Director of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, Michigan chapter, who will share how EPA safeguards are critical to our community's health. Susan Mudd, Senior Advocate at the Environmental Law and Policy Center, who will highlight the EPA's work on electric school bus grants and the urgent need to keep these programs in place, and Ellie Hannigan, a legislative and political coordinator at AFGE and an environmental scientist, offering firsthand insight on the agency's essential mission. Each speaker will share brief remarks, and if press has any questions, please contact Danielle Barturit-Schuyler at Moms Clean Air Force. We will have her email is on the press release. Thank you again for being here and standing up for the health of our communities, our environment, and future. Let's begin with welcoming Representative Julie Brixey. After her remarks, she will introduce Kathleen Sloninger, who will then introduce Susan Mudd, and then Susan will introduce Ellie Hannigan, and then we'll close out the event with remarks from Deirdre from WEMIAC. Thank you so much, and please go ahead, Representative Julie Brixey.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm State Representative Julie Brixey. I'm serving in my fourth term here in Michigan in the House. My district includes Michigan State University campus and a mix of urban and rural parts of Ingham County. I have a master's degree from MSU in soil chemistry and a specialization in environmental toxicology. So my first job out of college was doing soil mapping for the USDA. And later on, I traveled all over the state conducting investigations and cleanups of contaminated sites, including one right here in Lansing that was identified as an EPA Superfund site. Later in life, I got into local politics because of some things happening in my community, and I ended up serving my local government for nearly 20 years. That service started out with a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats who wanted to work together for our community. One of our biggest areas of common ground was the environment. We invested in renewable energy and brought curbside recycling to every door in Meridian. We also helped create the first land preservation program, which ensured over 1,000 acres of ecologically valuable land in our community to be protected. What I've learned over the years is that Michigan is a very unique state. We have a rich legacy in manufacturing, especially related to the automobile. We also have an incredible legacy of natural resources. We have miles and miles of Great Lakes coastline. We have rivers, we have forests, we have dunes, and we have prairies. These things can all come together in conflict, but we have a long history of bipartisanship in Michigan to protect our assets. I'm here today because clean air and water are a priority for me. In order to enjoy our ecological preserves, our parks, lakes, and streams, we need to protect them from pollution. The EPA's bipartisan heritage is a tale of great success for Michiganders and for our environment. The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative has supported thousands of projects to improve water quality and wetlands in our region, and recent efforts to tackle emerging contaminants like PFAS have relied heavily on support from the EPA and its incredible team of scientists and public health experts. Cleaner air and water means healthier people with less time off and higher earnings for American workers. Clean energy standards reduce pollution, create well-paying jobs, and foster our manufacturing industry, something uniquely important to Michigan. We are leaders in the clean energy industry. It's concerning to me that our executive branch is seeking to undermine these important programs under the guise of economic restrictions. We know that protecting our environment both saves lives and generates substantial economic growth. I call on our leaders in Congress to focus on protecting the EPA's continued efforts to keep our water and air clean for everyone and for the generations to come. Now I would like to kick it off to the next panelist in line for speaking, Kathleen.
Thank you, Representative Brixby. I really appreciate it. So from the Asthma and Allergy Foundation's point of view, we help people understand and manage their medical condition. And our outreach efforts lead folks to having healthier and happier lives and keeps them out of the hospital. And a big part of what we do is advocate for energy innovations that lead to cleaner air. Air pollution is now the biggest environmental risk for early death, responsible for nearly 7 million premature deaths worldwide. Dirty air has been linked to dementia, heart disease, stroke, cancer, respiratory illnesses like asthma. And people with asthma are at greater risk from breathing in the small particles from pollution like PM 2.5 and other irritating gases. They can irritate the airways and make asthma worse. There are both long-term and short-term exposure to air pollution and can lead to many other health problems, like, of course, asthma attacks and breathing problems in general, decreased lung growth in kids, and reduced lung function for everybody. Of course, folks will need more asthma medicine, more emergency department and hospital visits, and being exposed to pollution also can cause heart and blood vessel diseases and adverse birth outcomes such as premature weight, low birth weight, and stillbirths. At high levels, air pollution can be harmful to everyone, but even low levels of air pollution can cause harm. And the groups at most risk of this harm include, of course, people with lung disease, people with heart disease, babies and children, older adults, people who work or are active outdoors, pregnant women and their fetuses, people who live near sources of pollution like a busy roadway or a power plant or industrial facilities. And unfortunately, people who have lower incomes and the Black communities, Hispanic communities, and Native American and Indigenous communities are at higher risk. It is possible to reduce asthma rates and deaths, but we need policies that support healthier environments and communities. Researchers, healthcare providers, and citizens, federal and state policymakers all must work together on these policies that improve air quality and put health first. And as health and as air quality improves, believe it or not, there's a 20% reduction in asthma rates across the board. The EPA develops and regulates air quality standards as deemed critical by science and authorized by Congress. Now we, the AFA, are a patient advocate organization and typically steer clear of political discourse. But people's lives are in danger now. The current administration has spent their first days creating chaos and harm to the people, our climate, our wallets, with the worst harms affecting the most vulnerable among us. The actions are endangering communities' health by killing pollution protections, crippling extreme weather preparedness, and driving up costs and undermined economic growth through these unlawful freezes of investments that were already approved for clean energy. The evidence is clear. EPA and its policies enrich health and save lives of millions of Americans, but especially those affected by respiratory disease. As a registered nurse and certified asthma educator, I know how critical the EPA is for regulating policies that keep our air and our planet healthy and clean. But as a mom and an almost grandma come September, I know the EPA regulations keep our environment safe for my kids and for all of us. And now I'm proud to introduce my colleague, Susan Mudd. Take it away, Susan.
Thank you, Kathleen, and congratulations on your upcoming grandmotherhood. So good afternoon. I'm Susan Mudd, Senior Policy Advocate at the Environmental Law and Policy Center. Senior in this case is pertinent, as I'm old enough to remember the pre-EPA times. That is when the Cuyahoga River caught on fire due to the oil and other debris in it, when eagles were failing to reproduce due to the DDT building up in the food chain, when children's lungs in Los Angeles weren't fully developing due to air pollution. For the last 50 years, since it was established by President Richard Nixon in 1970, the US EPA has been protecting our nation's air, water, and health by setting standards such as those that Kathleen mentioned for air quality, for water quality, for pesticides and other toxins. It has acted in the interests of all Americans, rich, poor, rural, and urban. Its job is not easy, with resistance to changing habits always hard, and entrenched industries not often eager to take up the opportunity to become more efficient by reducing their wastes. Despite the many challenges facing the agency, it has to date made huge strides in improving the quality of the air we breathe, the water we drink, and that we swim in. Thus, it has contributed mightily to the health of US residents. EPA's progress has been through a combination of regulatory standards, again, such as those referred to earlier, and voluntary programs that help industries and individuals to meet those goals. I've been privileged to watch the US EPA make advances in numerous areas, most recently through its voluntary Clean School Bus program. I've witnessed EPA staff given a new program by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, also known as the IIJA, stand it up in record time, and proceed to implement it in a way that has, in its short life, already made wonderful progress. The program's goal is safer, cleaner rides for our nation's children as they go to and from school every day. Nearly 25 million children, almost 500,000 mostly diesel buses daily. 850,000 Michigan children ride school buses daily. Over 135,000 have asthma, which you've heard about from Kathleen. Exposure to toxic diesel contributes to childhood asthma, reduced lung development, and missed days of school for kids and missed days of work for their parents, costing money and time. In just 3 years, the EPA has already awarded 14,000 electric school buses to schools across the US, 300 of them here in Michigan. As these buses roll out, they are replacing older diesel buses, giving kids quieter, calmer, healthier rides to school so they get there readier to learn. Unfortunately, EPA is under the worst threats to its ability to carry out its mission since its founding. The new administration has threatened cuts to its programs, funding, and staff. Proposed cuts to its air programs, its research programs, anything perceived to have anything to do with environmental justice, in other words, fairness for past harms, is under attack, and anything electric. This program and the EPA save lives, and it must be saved. Now it is my pleasure to pass the mic to Ellie Hagan, scientist and with AFGE.
Susan. My name is Ellie Hagan, and I am here representing the American Federation of Government Employees, Union Local 704. We represent over 1,000 EPA employees across the Midwest and Great Lakes region, including Michigan. I'm Local 704's legislative and political coordinator. In addition to that, I'm a Midwesterner, and I'm an environmental scientist. I work in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's soon-to-be-closed Environmental Justice Program. I have been working in the environmental field for over 7 years, and I have never witnessed such unprecedented and unrelenting attacks on the environment and public health. In less than 90 days, we have seen the firing of EPA probationary employees serving in vital roles such as Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act programs. These employees are the next generation of environmental and public health protection. There are also plans to eliminate hundreds, if not thousands, more EPA jobs that are critical for public health research and safeguarding our environment. At the end of the Biden administration, EPA had over 16% less staff than in 1999. Additional cuts to EPA's workforce is not sustainable for proper safeguarding of human health and the environment. A particular program that's under attack is EPA's Environmental Justice Program. America's Environmental Justice Program, which has been functioning since President George H.W. Bush created it in 1992, has been slated for closure by EPA's Administrator Lee Zeldin. Decades worth of work under presidents from both sides of the aisle that have saved lives and served the most vulnerable people in this country has essentially been vanquished in less than 90 days by a small group of people in the executive branch. The people who deemed this work unnecessary have no real understanding of the work the EJ program does or its importance to the people in this country. They have spread propaganda that the EJ program is a partisan program that is operated recklessly, but this is not true. And I believe the public has a right to know the truth about what's going to be lost. By announcing the closure of the Environmental Justice Program, the EPA, the public institution that is responsible for protecting human health and the environment, has been stripped of the principle that all people in all communities have a right to equitable environmental protection and equitable enforcement of environmental laws. It has been stripped of the acknowledgement, backed by science, that not all people have equal access to a clean environment. The data shows us that pollution is not equally distributed across this country. It tends to accumulate in communities of color and poorer communities. And now we have been stripped of the resources in a program dedicated to promoting better environmental conditions and health outcomes for the most vulnerable people. My colleagues and I work tirelessly to combat childhood lead poisoning, provide public education on reducing harmful environmental exposures, and ensure everyday people have a voice in decisions that are made about their community's environment. Under the Environmental Justice Program, EJ scientists oversaw projects to remove lead drinking water service lines, improve wastewater treatment infrastructure in low-income communities, and increase air monitoring in communities with high levels of cancer and childhood asthma, amongst other life-saving work. Most of these projects have since been halted by this administration. Environmental and public health protection is very personal to me. At 9 years old, I watched my mother die from a rare and serious form of breast cancer. She worked at a highly contaminated site in rural Ohio. The site was riddled with contamination ranging from nuclear pollutants to solvents such as trichloroethylene and vinyl chloride, things that the EPA works to clean up. Every person in this country deserves to live in a clean environment with safe air to breathe, clean water to drink, and clean land to live on. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin recently announced the biggest deregulatory campaign in history, proposing to roll back vital protections that keep our air clean, our water safe, and mitigate the impacts of climate change. This administration is selling the American public a lie by telling us that we must dismantle public services and degrade our environment in order to boost the economy. Slashing vital environmental protections and public health programs does not make us more efficient. It makes us sicker. Slashing public resources for vulnerable children and families is not patriotic, and it does not make us great again. It makes us weak. Deregulating and degrading the environment will only increase corporate profits while making the rest of us sicker and our earth dirtier. I have seen firsthand how the American government has let people down. Waste, fraud, and abuse must go, but we will not achieve an end to mismanagement by following the slash and burn plan. Instead, we could decrease abuse of the system by cutting corporate welfare for the largest, richest corporations. We could decrease fraud by putting an end to corporate campaign donations that lead to regulatory advantages that degrade the environment for us while lining the pockets of rich CEOs. But instead, this administration plans to slash working class jobs and vital public services. Do not give in to the hate and fear that their lies perpetuate. Hate is a weapon that harms us all, and fear is ammunition used to divide us. We must stand united to protect our environment and defend our democracy. It is our actions today that determine the future that we have tomorrow. If you oppose the dangerous cuts to the EPA, please talk to your neighbors about your concerns and contact your elected officials. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and now I'll pass it back to Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Ellie, for your very personal and passionate story. My name is Deirdre Nieves, and I am the Director of Climate Solutions and Justice with West Michigan Environmental Action Council. Like our panelists today, I am a mom, I am a grandmother, and these issues are very important to me. Thank you so much today to each of our speakers, State Representative Julie Brixey, Kathleen Sloninger, Susan Mudd, Ellen Hagan, for your powerful words and for the work you do every day to protect our health, our environment, and our future. We've heard here today what is at stake. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has been central to over 50 years of life-saving progress, reducing smog and soot, limiting toxic mercury, cutting carbon pollution, and protecting our air, water, and land. The EPA works to save lives, prevent diseases, and supports cleaner, healthier communities. And now all of this is under direct attack. The current administration announced a dangerous plan to dismantle the very standards that have made this progress possible. Their proposal would eliminate pollution limits on power plants and vehicles, scrap protections for mercury and smog, and greenlight some of the largest increase in pollution we've seen in decades. This isn't just a rollback of regulations. It's really an assault on the most vulnerable among us: children, the elderly, low-income families, the communities of color who are already bearing the brunt of toxic pollution and climate disasters. If these protections are torn away, we'll see more asthma attacks and cancer diagnoses, more poisonous drinking water, more environmental injustice, and more catastrophic events like wildfires and floods that have already reshaped the communities, the very communities across this country. As people get sicker, miss more work, and face higher health care and climate costs, polluting industries will get a free pass. This is not acceptable. We fought hard these last 4 years for stronger protections, healthier air, and a livable climate. We are not going to give up now. We must not stand by while this mission of the EPA and other critical agencies are abandoned. We must defend our health, our communities, and our right to a future that is safe, just, and livable. We want to thank you today to our host, Elizabeth Hontman, with Moms Clean Air Force, West Michigan Environmental Action Council, and the Climate Action Campaign. And we want to thank you all for standing with us today to not only strengthen, but to save the EPA. Thank you.